my opponents claim the international community has abandoned Palestine. This is not just an opinion, it's a factual error. According to the latest data from 2024, Palestine was the single largest recipient of humanitarian assistance on the planet. Palestine was the single largest recipient of humanitarian assistance on the planet.
You have the ears of the House.
Palestinians have been failed. They have been failed catastrophically. The proposition wants you to believe the international community failed them because it didn't give the Palestinian leadership enough money, enough impunity, or enough land. The international community failed the Palestinian people not by abandoning them, but by indulging a political fantasy at the expense of human reality. They failed because for decades they treated Palestinians not as population to be uplifted, but as a geopolitical weapon to be sharpened against the state of Israel. To understand this failure, we must look at the neighborhood. The proposition frames this as a unique struggle of the oppressed against the powerful. But history tells a different story. Professor Rashid Khalidi calls this the 100 Years' War on Palestine. And I agree there has been a 100 Years' War. But it has been waged by Arab nationalists against every non-Arab, non-Muslim indigenous community in the region. If the international community has failed anyone, it is the indigenous religious minorities of the Levant, which no one seems to talk about. They betrayed the Assyrians and the Kurds after World War I, placing their territories under Iraqi, Turkish, and Syrian control, leaving them as persecuted minorities without statehood. They watched as the Maronites in Lebanon were diminished from a political majority to a fraction of their power. They allowed the Yazidis to face a genocide. The pattern is not one of failing Palestine. The pattern is the international community appeasing Arab authoritarianism because of oil and Cold War alliances. They normalized the idea that Arab majorities should control the entire region, even at the expense of older indigenous cultures. My own grandparents were part of that story. They were among the 850,000 Jews violently expelled from Iraq, Tunisia, and across the Middle East. The Middle Eastern Jewish civilization, indigenous to the region, was uprooted and erased within 1 decade. How many Jews live in Iraq today? 0. They receive no UN agency, they receive no perpetual refugee status, they receive no annual resolutions, they were forced to move on, there were no debate in Cambridge or Oxford, there were no protests here in London in support of those 850,000 Jewish refugees.